Get the hell out. I do not need some broke-ass janitor watching me like a damn stray dog. Harrison Caldwell did not even look up, tears on his face. A fortune gone, gone, stolen, sitting alone in an empty office with a whiskey he could not even lift. Darius Brooks stood in the doorway, mop in hand. Sir, is there anything I can? Boy, you can barely afford the shoes you are standing in. Get back to your bucket. Darius did not leave. He looked past Harrison, straight at the documents on the desk. His eyes caught something no one in this building had seen in some time. Then he said 3 words. Harrison froze, stared at this janitor like he was seeing a ghost. 3 words from a man who pushed a mop for a living. And those 3 words saved a billionaire's entire empire from a massive betrayal. Man, you have to hear how this whole thing started. Let me take you back. One evening in Manhattan, the city was doing what Manhattan always does, glowing like it never sleeps. High up, the Caldwell Tower cut through the skyline like a glass knife. The kind of building where the elevator alone cost more than most people's apartments. Down at street level, around the back of the building, there was a service entrance. No marble here, no chandelier, just a gray metal door with a badge scanner and a flickering light above it that nobody ever bothered to fix. Darius Brooks swiped his badge at the usual time, same time every night, for some time straight. The scanner beeped, the door clicked open, the cold air followed him inside. He walked down a concrete hallway to the basement locker room. The fluorescent lights hummed that low, tired hum. The room smelled like industrial soap and old coffee. 4 metal lockers lined the wall. Darius opened the second one. Inside, hanging on a hook, his navy coveralls pressed and clean. He put them on the same way he always did. Left leg first, right leg, zip up the front. On the inside of his locker door, there was a faded photograph. A younger Darius, wearing a sharp gray suit, shaking hands with someone at a graduation ceremony. Howard University, MBA. Right next to the photo, taped to the metal, a yellowed newspaper clipping. A small article about a black-owned accounting firm that closed its doors some time ago. The firm's name was Brooks and Associates. Darius looked at that photo every night, never said a word about it to anyone. He grabbed his cleaning cart, loaded up the spray bottles, the rags, the trash bags, slipped a worn paperback into his back pocket. The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. The spine was cracked, pages dog-eared. He had read it many times. Then he headed for the service elevator. See, Darius knew this building better than anyone alive, better than the security guards, better than the executives. For some time he had cleaned every floor, every office, every bathroom. You learn things. He knew that the marketing team on one floor always left pizza boxes on their desks on certain days. He knew that the legal department shredded more documents than any other floor. He knew which executives said good evening when he passed and which ones looked straight through him like he was part of the wall. Most of them looked through him. That was fine. Darius did not need to be seen. He had his routine, his rhythm, mop the lobby, vacuum the hallways, empty the trash, wipe down the glass. Move floor by floor, bottom to top, ending on the top floor. The executive suite, that is where the corner office was. The big one, Harrison Caldwell's office. Now, let me tell you about Harrison Caldwell, self-made billionaire. Built Caldwell Enterprises from a single real estate deal into a massive commercial empire. Office towers, shopping centers, luxury developments. The man's name was on buildings across several states, but that evening, none of that mattered. That evening, Harrison Caldwell was broken. He sat behind his mahogany desk in the dark. The only light was the blue glow from his laptop screen. His tie was loose, his jacket was on the floor. There was a glass of whiskey on the desk. Poured hours ago, still full. He had been staring at a forensic audit report. And every page said the same thing. A fortune had been drained from Caldwell Enterprises over some time, siphoned through a web of shell companies with names that did not exist before the money started moving. His board of directors had called an emergency meeting for the next morning. 3 major investors were already threatening to pull out. The company's stock had dropped after someone leaked a rumor to the press. And the worst part? Harrison thought he knew who did it. Preston Whitaker, his CFO, his right-hand man for years, had discovered the discrepancies some time ago and pointed the finger straight at Malik Saunders. Young, black kid from the Bronx, junior financial analyst. Preston fired him on the spot. Harrison believed every word of it. Now, sitting in that dark office with tears drying on his face, he was not sure he believed anything anymore. Darius rolled his cleaning cart out of the service elevator on the top floor. The hallway was dead quiet. That expensive kind of quiet. Thick carpet, soundproof walls, the hum of central air conditioning whispering through the vents. He started his routine. Trash cans first, then the glass conference room walls, then the bathrooms. He worked his way down the hall, office by office, moving slow and steady, like he always did. But when he turned the corner toward Harrison's office, he stopped. The light was on. Not the overhead lights, just the blue glow leaking through the glass door. Darius had cleaned this floor countless nights. He knew Harrison's patterns. The man was usually gone early. Something was wrong. Darius parked his cart against the wall, walked to the door, knocked twice softly. No answer. He knocked again. Mr. Caldwell? It is Darius. Cleaning crew. Just checking if you need anything before. I said get the hell out. Harrison's voice came from deep inside the dark office. Raw, hoarse, like he had been talking to himself for hours, or not talking at all. Darius should have walked away. That is what years of being invisible had taught him. Do not ask questions. Do not linger. Do not make yourself a problem. Just clean and go. But something in that voice, something cracked and desperate, made him push the door open a few inches. The smell hit him first. Whiskey, the sharp, peaty kind. Then he saw Harrison, hunched over his desk, papers everywhere, not the neat stacks Harrison usually kept. These were scattered, some on the floor. A forensic audit report with red circles and handwritten notes in the margins. Sir, I am sorry. I just heard. You heard what? That I am finished? Harrison laughed, bitter, hollow. A fortune gone, and I am sitting here like an idiot trying to figure out how it happened. Darius stood in the doorway. He did not step in, did not step out. His eyes moved across the desk the way they always did. Quick, automatic. Years of cleaning offices, you see everything. Bank statements, love letters, resignation letters, divorce papers. Darius had seen it all and never said a word. But that evening, his eyes caught something different. The shell company documents were spread across the left side of the desk. Wire transfer authorizations on the right. And in between, a compliance report with signature pages. Darius's brain did something it had not done in years. It went into accountant mode. The signatures on the wire transfers did not match the authorization codes on the compliance forms. The routing numbers were sequenced wrong, a pattern that any forensic accountant would flag in moments. But if you were not looking for it, if you trusted the person who filed those forms, you would never notice. Darius noticed. His lips parted. He almost said something right there. Almost. But before he could open his mouth, a voice came from behind him. What the hell is this? Preston Whitaker. Standing at the end of the hallway, suit still perfect. Not a wrinkle. His cologne hit the air before his words did. Sharp, expensive, aggressive. Preston walked toward Darius with that walk. You know the walk. Chin up, shoulders squared, every step saying, I own this floor and you do not. Why is the janitor in the CEO's office unsupervised? Preston was not asking Darius. He was asking the air, like Darius was not a person worth speaking to directly. Harrison looked up from his desk. Preston, it is fine. He was just. It is not fine. Preston cut him off, pulled out his phone. This is a restricted floor. We have got confidential documents in every office up here. And this guy, he pointed at Darius without looking at him, is standing in the middle of it. Preston stepped closer to Darius, close enough that Darius could see the tiny veins in Preston's eyes, could smell the bourbon under the cologne. You got sticky fingers, mop boy? That what this is? I was just checking if Mr. Caldwell needed. What Mr. Caldwell needs is for you to get your ass back to the basement where you belong. Preston pulled his phone up to his ear. Security? Yeah, top floor. I need 2 guards up here. Now. Darius's chest tightened. Not from fear, from something older, something deeper. That feeling you get when you know exactly what is about to happen, because it has happened before. Harrison stood up from his desk. Preston, that is not necessary. He just knocked on my. Harrison, sit down. Preston's voice changed. Harder. Like he was the one in charge. You are not thinking straight tonight. Let me handle this. 2 security guards arrived within moments, both in black uniforms, both looking uncomfortable. Preston pointed at Darius. Search him. Excuse me? Darius said. You heard me. Empty your pockets. All of them. You were in an office with classified financial documents. For all I know, you have been in here every night leaking information. That is not. Empty your pockets. Darius looked at Harrison. Harrison looked away. That was the moment. That tiny look away. The billionaire could not even hold eye contact with the man being humiliated in his doorway. That look away said everything about the distance between these 2 worlds. Darius reached into his pockets. Slowly. One at a time. Left pocket. A ring of keys, his apartment, his locker, nothing else. Right pocket, his phone, a Samsung with a cracked screen, back pocket. The worn copy of The Intelligent Investor. The book fell to the carpet with a soft thud. One of the security guards picked it up, looked at the cover, raised an eyebrow. Preston saw it, smirked. Oh, that is cute. What is next? You going to tell me you have got an MBA, too? Darius said nothing. His jaw was tight. His eyes stayed level. Preston turned to the guards. Check the cart too. They checked. Spray bottles, rags, trash bags, a thermos of coffee, nothing else. Preston was not satisfied. He never would be. This was never about documents. This was about a black man standing somewhere Preston did not think he should stand. Get him out of here. Service elevator. And I want a report filed. Unauthorized access to a restricted floor. Darius picked up his book, put it back in his pocket, straightened his coveralls. He did not argue, did not raise his voice, did not give Preston the satisfaction. The guards walked him toward the elevator, one on each side, like he was dangerous, like a janitor with a mop and a paper bag was a threat to national security. They reached the elevator. The guard pressed the down button. The doors opened. Darius stepped inside, turned around, and right before the doors closed, he looked past the guards, past Preston, straight at Harrison Caldwell, standing at the far end of the hallway. His voice was calm, steady, like a man who had waited years to say something that mattered. Check the signatures, Mr. Caldwell. The routing numbers do not match the authorization codes. The doors closed. Preston's smirk disappeared, just for a second, just a flicker. Then it came back. The hell was that about? Harrison did not answer. He was staring at the elevator doors. The janitor's words were echoing in his skull. Check the signatures. The routing numbers do not match the authorization codes. How would a janitor know what authorization codes were? Preston clapped his hands together. All right, show is over. Harrison, go home. Get some sleep. I will handle the board in the morning. He said it like a command, not a suggestion. Harrison nodded slowly, but he did not leave. He walked back to his office, sat down at his desk, stared at the documents, and for the first time in some time, he started looking at them with new eyes. Harrison did not go home. He loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves, pulled the forensic audit report back to the center of his desk, and started from page 1. The office was dead silent. Just the hum of the air conditioning and the soft click of his pen against the desk. Outside the window, Manhattan glittered like nothing was wrong. Taxis crawled down Fifth Avenue. A siren wailed somewhere far below. Harrison flipped to the wire transfer authorizations. The first shell company, Apex Meridian Holdings, registered in Delaware sometime before the first transfer. He had seen this page many times. Preston had walked him through it personally, pointed at Malik Saunders' employee ID on the access log and said, "There is your guy." But that evening, Harrison was not looking at the access log. He was looking at the signature. The authorization form required 2 signatures for any wire transfer over a certain amount. One from the requesting officer, one from the CFO. Preston's signature was on every single one. That was not unusual. That was his job. But the routing numbers on the wire transfers did not match the routing numbers on the compliance verification forms. Harrison blinked, pulled both documents side by side, checked again. The wire went to one routing number. The compliance form listed another, 4 digits off. On one transfer, that could be a typo. On many transfers, that is a pattern. Someone had manually overridden the compliance verification system, entered the correct routing numbers into the wire transfer, but filed different numbers with compliance, so the internal audit would not flag a match to the shell companies. Harrison's hands went cold. Only 3 people in the company had the system access level to override compliance verification. Harrison himself, Preston, and the former head of IT who retired some time ago. Harrison had not touched those forms. The former head of IT was gone. That left Preston. He pulled up the access logs on his laptop. Every compliance override left a digital fingerprint, an employee ID, a timestamp, and a terminal location. He filtered for overrides in some time. Many overrides, all from the same terminal, Preston's office, all logged late at night, all using Preston's employee credentials. Harrison pushed back from his desk. His chair rolled until it hit the window. The Manhattan skyline stretched out behind him, but he was not seeing any of it. Preston. Years. Years Harrison had trusted this man with everything. His finances, his board relationships, his reputation. Preston was the first person Harrison called when the audit turned up discrepancies. Preston was the one who said, "I will get to the bottom of this." Preston was the one who blamed Malik. And now, Harrison was staring at many digital fingerprints that said Preston was the one who put the money in motion. He felt sick, but that was not all. Harrison pulled up Preston's personnel actions for some time. There it was, Malik Saunders terminated. Reason suspected involvement in financial irregularities, signed by Preston Whitaker. No investigation, no hearing, no evidence beyond Preston's word. A young kid from the Bronx. First one in his family to get a finance degree, hired with a strong GPA. Worked at Caldwell Enterprises for some time before Preston destroyed his career with one signature. Harrison thought about Darius's face in the elevator. Calm, no anger, no fear, just the steady eyes of a man who knew exactly what he was saying. Check the signatures. How long had Darius known? Meanwhile, some floors below, Preston Whitaker was in his own office with the door locked. The shredder was running, feeding documents in one at a time, slowly, carefully. The machine whined and chewed. Strips of paper curled into the bin like white worms. Preston had his phone pressed to his ear. The voice on the other end spoke with a clipped European accent. Close the Apex Meridian account by morning. Transfer the balance to the Nicosia account. Use the backup routing. He hung up, made another call. This one shorter. The Cyprus account too. Move everything to the tertiary and burn the access credentials. Preston was not panicking. His hands were steady. His voice was flat. He had planned for this moment. He had exit routes built into exit routes. 3 passports in a safe deposit box in Midtown, a condo in Zurich that no one at Caldwell Enterprises knew about. But first, loose ends. He opened his laptop, logged into the HR system, pulled up Darius Brooks's employee file. Darius Brooks, night custodial staff, hired some time ago. No disciplinary record. No complaints. Preston started typing. Termination request. Reason? Unauthorized access to restricted executive floor. Potential corporate espionage. Immediate dismissal recommended. He filed it, set the effective date for the next morning. Darius would show up for his shift and find his badge deactivated. Then, Preston opened his email, drafted a message to 3 board members, the ones he had been cultivating for some time. The subject line read, Confidential Leadership Transition Framework. The email was careful. No accusations, just gentle suggestions that Harrison was under enormous stress and may not be in the best position to lead the company through this crisis. Preston read it over twice, hit send. He leaned back in his chair, looked at the ceiling, smiled. By the next morning, Harrison would be pressured to step aside. Preston would step in as interim CEO. The investigation would quietly die. The money was already moving offshore, and the only person who could connect any of it, a janitor with a mop and a paperback, would be gone before long. Perfect. Except for one thing Preston did not know. Later that night, Harrison Caldwell took the service elevator to the basement. The hallway was dim, that same flickering light above the service entrance. The concrete walls felt like a different planet from the top floor. Harrison had never been down here, not once in the years since the building opened. He found the break room at the end of the hall, a small room with a plastic table, 2 chairs, a microwave, and a vending machine that buzzed like a dying insect. The overhead light was yellow and tired. Darius was sitting at the table, thermos of coffee in front of him. The intelligent investor opened to a chapter. He looked up when Harrison walked in. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Harrison pulled out the other chair, sat down. The plastic creaked under him. He looked ridiculous. Expensive suit in a basement break room with vending machine light on his face. You were right, Harrison said. The signatures do not match. The overrides came from Preston's terminal, his credentials, his timestamps. Darius closed his book, set it on the table. I know. How? How do you know any of this? Darius took a slow breath. Then he told him. The MBA from Howard. The accounting firm he built from nothing and lost some time ago. His wife Eleanor, who died of cancer some time ago. The janitor job he took because he needed insurance and because sitting at home in an empty apartment was killing him faster than any disease. He told Harrison about years of cleaning Preston's office. The shredded documents he had seen. Pieces of wire transfer confirmations in the trash that did not match the company's regular banks. The late-night phone calls Preston made when he thought the floor was empty. The USB drives hidden behind books on Preston's shelf that appeared and disappeared week to week. I am a janitor, Mr. Caldwell, but I am not blind, and I am not stupid. Harrison stared at him, really stared, like he was seeing Darius for the first time. Why did not you say something sooner? Darius almost smiled. Almost. Who was I going to tell? You? Preston? I am the mop boy, remember? Who is going to believe the janitor? Silence. Harrison looked down at his hands. For the first time, the shame on his face was not about the money. It was about something older. Something he had never had to think about because he had never had to. There is something else, Darius said. Malik Saunders, the kid Preston fired. He did not do this. Preston set him up to take the fall. I know, Harrison whispered. Then you know what needs to happen. Darius leaned forward. His voice was quiet, but it hit like a hammer. I will help you. But Malik gets his job back, and he gets a public apology, not behind closed doors. Public. Harrison nodded. No hesitation. They shook hands across the plastic table. A billionaire and a janitor, under buzzing vending machine light in the middle of the night. They started planning. By early morning, they had called a forensic accountant Darius recommended, a former colleague from his accounting days. By a short time later, Harrison was on the phone with a federal investigator at the SEC. The emergency board meeting was set for soon. Preston Whitaker had no idea what was coming. Like, are you serious right now? Imagine being that smart, that talented, and for some time, nobody even looks at you twice. and all because of a uniform. Man, if that was me standing there with a mop, I honestly do not know if I could have kept my cool like that. The sun was not up yet. Manhattan was still gray. That cold early gray where the streetlights had not turned off, but the sky was starting to change. The top floor of Caldwell Tower was already awake. Harrison had showered in the executive bathroom. Fresh suit, clean shave. His eyes were still red, but his hands had stopped shaking. He stood at the head of the boardroom table, a long slab of dark walnut that seated many. The room smelled like fresh coffee and leather chairs. The board members arrived one by one. Dark suits, tight faces, nobody was making small talk. They all knew the company was bleeding. They just did not know from where. Harrison's legal counsel sat in the corner, quiet, taking notes already. At the far end of the table, a woman nobody on the board recognized. Elena Walsh, forensic accountant, Darius's former colleague. She had a laptop open and a stack of printed spreadsheets that could bury a man. Next to her, standing against the wall with his arms crossed, a man in a dark blue suit with a government ID clipped to his belt. SEC Federal Investigator. He did not introduce himself, did not need to. The board members noticed. Glances shot across the table. Something was very wrong, or very right. They could not tell yet. Soon Preston Whitaker walked in. He looked perfect. Gray suit, blue tie, hair combed back. He was carrying a leather folder inside his prepared statement for the leadership transition. He smiled at the board, shook two hands, poured himself a coffee, sat down at his usual seat, right side of the table, second chair from the head. He did not notice Elena Walsh, did not notice the federal investigator, did not notice that Harrison was not sitting down. "Morning, everyone," Preston said. "I know this is early. Harrison, you want to kick things off, or should I? I will take it from here, Preston." Harrison's voice was different, flat, controlled, the kind of calm that comes after you have already made every decision that matters. He pressed a button on the conference phone. A screen on the wall lit up. The first slide was simple, white background, black text. Wire transfer authorization, Apex Meridian Holdings, routing number, discrepancy. Preston's coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. Harrison walked through it, slowly, methodically, many wire transfers, many compliance overrides, all from Preston's terminal, all using Preston's credentials, all logged late at night, the hours when Preston thought nobody was watching. Elena Walsh took over. She pulled up the shell company registrations. Apex Meridian Holdings, Granite Peak Capital, Dune Harbor LLC, all registered within some time of each other, all connected to the same offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands and Cyprus, all traceable, through layers of paper, back to a single beneficiary. She turned her laptop toward the table. The name on the screen was Preston James Whitaker. The room was silent. The kind of silence that has weight. You could hear the ventilation system. You could hear someone's pen touch the table. Preston set his coffee down. His face had not changed yet. The smile was gone, but the mask was still holding. "This is absurd," he said. "Harrison, you are under an enormous amount of stress. I understand that. But pointing fingers at the one person who has been trying to protect this company." "There is more," Harrison said. He pressed another button. Security camera footage, timestamp sometime the previous night. Preston's office. The footage showed Preston feeding documents into a shredder one by one, then picking up his phone. The audio was not clear, but the federal investigator confirmed they had already subpoenaed the phone records. Preston's mask cracked, just slightly, a twitch at the corner of his mouth. His eyes darted to the door. "This is a setup," Preston said. His voice was tighter now, higher. "That janitor, the one who was snooping around last night, he planted something. You are going to take the word of a janitor over." The boardroom door opened. Darius Brooks walked in. Not in coveralls, not with a mop. He was wearing a pressed charcoal suit, Harrison's, slightly big in the shoulders, but it fit well enough. His shoes were polished, his posture was straight. He sat down at the table, pulled a chair right up to the walnut, like he had been sitting in boardrooms his entire life, because he had. Once. Preston stared at him, his mouth open. Nothing came out. Darius spoke, calm, clear, every word precise. He laid out the financial trail like a surgeon opening a chest, routing numbers, shell company formation dates, the correlation between compliance overrides and offshore deposits, the timeline of Malik Saunders' termination, filed the same week Preston accelerated the transfers. He used terms half the board had to look up. He cited regulations by number. When he finished, the room was dead quiet. Preston looked around the table. Every face was stone. No allies, no exit. The man who had called him Mop Boy some time ago had just dismantled his entire empire in moments. Darius did not gloat, did not smile. He just closed the folder in front of him, leaned back, and looked at Preston with the same steady eyes he had had in that elevator. The power flip was complete. The invisible man was now the most important person in the room. Preston stood up fast. His chair rolled back and hit the wall. I do not have to sit here and listen to this. He grabbed his leather folder, buttoned his jacket, walked toward the boardroom door like he still owned the floor. Like the last moments had not happened. Like confidence alone could undo what every person in that room had just seen. He reached for the door handle. The door opened before he touched it. Two men in dark suits. Federal agents. U.S. Marshals. They filled the doorway shoulder to shoulder. One of them held a folded document. Preston James Whitaker? Preston's hand was still in the air, reaching for a handle that was not there anymore. You are under arrest. Wire fraud, embezzlement, obstruction of justice. You have the right to remain silent. The rest of the words blurred together. Miranda rights. Hands behind your back. The click of handcuffs. That small metallic sound that changes everything. Preston tried one last time. Turned his head toward the board. His voice was higher now. Thinner. The mask was gone. This is a misunderstanding. I was protecting the company. Everything I did was. Harrison, tell them. Tell them I was trying to. Nobody answered. Not one person at that table opened their mouth. Many board members. Legal counsel. Elena Walsh. The SEC investigator. All silent. All watching. Harrison looked at Preston. No anger on his face. Just exhaustion. The kind you feel when you realize the person you trusted most was the one cutting your throat. He did not say a word. The agents walked Preston out of the boardroom, down the hallway, past the glass offices, past the conference rooms where he had held 1,000 meetings, past the reception desk where his name was still on the executive directory. Into the elevator, down many floors. The lobby was empty early. Just the security desk and the marble floors and the chandelier light. The same lobby where Preston had told Darius to stay out of sight. The same marble Darius had mopped countless times. Preston was walked through that lobby in handcuffs. His Italian shoes clicked against the floor. His reflection slid across the polished stone, distorted, broken, disappearing as he moved toward the glass doors. A black SUV was waiting outside. The agents put him in the back seat. The door closed. The SUV pulled away from the curb and merged into early morning Manhattan traffic like it was nothing. Like Preston Whitaker was nothing. Back on the top floor, the boardroom exhaled. The board voted immediately. Unanimous. Preston Whitaker removed from all positions. Terminated with cause. All corporate accounts, credit cards, and access credentials frozen effective immediately. Legal counsel was directed to pursue full civil recovery in addition to the federal case. Harrison stepped out of the boardroom, walked to his office, closed the door. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. It rang several times. Hello? The voice was young, confused. Nobody called Malik Saunders anymore. Not since Preston had made sure every recruiter in the city knew his name was toxic. Malik, this is Harrison Caldwell. Silence on the other end. I owe you an apology, not a private one, a public one. What happened to you, what Preston did to you. I should have seen it. I should have asked more questions. I did not. And I am sorry. Malik did not speak for a long time. When he did, his voice was cracking. Mr. Caldwell, I have been living in my car for some time. I lost my apartment. No one will hire me. My mom thinks I'm a criminal. Harrison closed his eyes. I am offering you your job back. Full back pay for every month since your termination. And a promotion. Director of Financial Compliance. If you want it, Malik broke down. The sound came through the phone raw and unfiltered. Not words, just the sound of a man who had been drowning and someone finally pulled him up. Harrison let him cry. Did not rush him. Did not fill the silence with corporate language. Just sat there and listened. It was the least he could do. When he hung up, he walked back into the hallway. Darius was standing by the window, still in Harrison's borrowed suit, looking out at the Manhattan skyline as the sun finally broke above the buildings. Orange light poured across the floor. You saved this company, Darius. Darius shook his head, did not turn from the window. I just told you to check the signatures. Harrison stood beside him. Two men, side by side, watching the sun come up over a city that never stops moving. For the first time in some time, Harrison Caldwell could breathe. The story did not end in that boardroom. Not even close. The FBI opened a formal investigation into Preston Whitaker. The SEC followed. Two federal agencies pulling the same thread at the same time. And every inch they pulled, the thread got longer. The forensic team started with the shell companies Elena Walsh had identified. Apex Meridian Holdings, Granite Peak Capital, Dune Harbor LLC. But the deeper they dug, the more they found. More shell companies registered in several states and offshore, all connected to Preston. All funneling money to a network of offshore accounts that bounced from the Cayman Islands to Cyprus to a private bank in Liechtenstein. The total was more than the initial amount. Preston had been doing this for years, slowly, patiently, skimming just enough that the numbers looked like rounding errors, until they did not. But the money was only part of it. The FBI found something else on Preston's personal laptop, a folder labeled Personnel Management inside. Surveillance reports, photographs, background checks, all targeting employees. Preston had hired a private investigator to dig into the personal lives of any Black or Latino employee he considered a threat. Anyone who asked too many questions, anyone who climbed too fast, anyone who might one day sit in a chair Preston thought belonged to someone else. Malik Saunders was on the list. So were three other employees Preston had pushed out over some time, fabricated performance reviews, invented complaints, quiet conversations with department heads suggesting that certain people were not the right cultural fit. Darius Brooks was on the list too. Preston had flagged him some time ago, not because Darius had done anything wrong, but because a security guard mentioned that the janitor seemed unusually interested in the executive floor. Preston's note in the file read, "Monitor, potential liability, terminate at first opportunity." First opportunity came that evening. Preston just did not know it would be his last act as CFO. The FBI arrested the private investigator on a morning. He cooperated within hours, gave them everything. Emails, invoices, the surveillance photos, all of it pointing back to Preston. Then the media caught wind. Lila Foster at the National Tribune broke the story first. She had been tipped off by someone inside the SEC. Nobody ever confirmed who. Her headline hit the internet on a Thursday night. The janitor who caught a massive thief. How a night shift custodian exposed one of the biggest corporate frauds in New York history. By the next morning, every major outlet in the country had picked it up. CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Fox Business, MSNBC, everyone. Darius's face was everywhere, not the mugshot treatment that black men usually got on the news. A real photo. One Harrison had taken in the boardroom that morning. Darius in the charcoal suit, sitting at the walnut table, looking like he belonged there. Because he did. The story went viral in a way nobody predicted, not because of the fraud. Corporate fraud happens every day. It went viral because of the contrast. The janitor and the billionaire, the mop and the boardroom, the man everyone ignored and the truth nobody wanted to see. Social media exploded. The hashtag started small. Someone on Twitter posted a clip from Lila Foster's article with 3 words, "Check the signatures." Within hours, it was the #1 trending topic in the United States. Within a short time, it had gone global. People posted their own stories, times they had been dismissed, overlooked, underestimated because of how they looked or what they did for a living. Janitors, security guards, delivery drivers, nurses' aides, the invisible workforce that keeps everything running while nobody looks. Harrison Caldwell held a press conference days after the arrest. He stood behind a podium with the Caldwell Enterprises logo on the wall behind him. His voice was steady, but you could see the weight on his shoulders. He credited Darius by name, told the full story, did not sugarcoat his own failure, how he had trusted Preston blindly, how he had allowed Malik to be fired without asking a single question, how he had never once walked down to the basement to learn the name of the man who cleaned his office every night for some time. He apologized to Malik Saunders publicly, on camera, with Malik standing beside him. Then he turned to Darius, who was standing off to the side, and said, "This man saved my company, and I almost let him get thrown out of the building for trying." Preston Whitaker's trial began sometime later. Federal Courthouse, Lower Manhattan. Weeks of testimony, many witnesses, thousands of pages of financial documents entered into evidence. Preston's defense attorney tried everything, claimed Preston was under extreme professional pressure, claimed the shell companies were investment vehicles that Preston intended to disclose, claimed Darius Brooks was a disgruntled employee who had planted evidence to frame a man he resented. The jury did not buy any of it. Elena Walsh's forensic testimony alone took 2 full days. She walked the jury through every transaction, every override, every timestamp. By the time she finished, one juror was shaking her head. Another had his arms crossed and had not uncrossed them in hours. Darius took the stand for some time. He spoke the same way he spoke in that boardroom. Calm, precise, no drama. He explained what he had seen over some time. The shredded documents, the phone calls, the USB drives. He did not embellish, did not need to. When the defense attorney tried to rattle him, "Is it not true you have no formal authority to review financial documents?" Darius looked at him and said, "I did not need authority. I needed eyes." The jury deliberated for some time. Guilty. All counts. Many counts of wire fraud, embezzlement, obstruction of justice, conspiracy. Judge Patricia Coleman read the sentence sometime later. The courtroom was packed. Cameras everywhere. Years in federal prison. Full restitution of the fortune. All assets seized. Judge Coleman added a statement from the bench. She said that what made this case exceptional was not just the scale of the fraud. It was the system that allowed it. A system where one man could target employees based on race, destroy careers with fabricated evidence, and steal a fortune in plain sight. Because nobody was looking at the right person, and nobody was listening to the people who were. Preston was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs. He did not look at anyone. The doors closed behind him. Sometime later, Darius Brooks walked into Caldwell Tower through the front entrance. Not the service door around back. Not the gray metal door with the flickering light. The front entrance. Glass doors, marble lobby, chandelier. I was wearing his own suit now. Navy blue. Nothing fancy. But it fit. The security guard at the front desk nodded. Morning, Mr. Brooks? Mr. Brooks? Not mop boy, not janitor, not the help. Mr. Brooks. Harrison had offered him a corner office. Vice President of Internal Affairs. High salary, company car, the whole package. Darius turned it down. Every part of it. I do not want an office, Harrison. I spent some time watching what offices do to people. Instead, Darius accepted a consulting role. Some days a week, he reviewed internal financial systems, flagged discrepancies, trained junior analysts on what to look for, not just in the numbers, but in the behavior. The late nights, the locked doors, the shredders running at night, the things that do not show up on spreadsheets but tell you everything. He still came to the building most evenings. Old habit. Sometimes Harrison would find him in the lobby after hours, sitting on one of the marble benches with his paperback, reading under the chandelier light like it was the most natural thing in the world. The rest of his salary, every dollar above what he needed to live, went to a scholarship fund at Howard University. The Eleanor Brooks Memorial Scholarship, named after his late wife. Full ride for first-generation college students studying accounting or finance. Several students in the first year, more the next. Darius never did a single interview. Lila Foster called him many times. CNN left messages. The Today Show sent a producer to his apartment. He turned them all down. I did not do it for cameras, he told Harrison once, sitting in that same basement break room where everything started. I did it because it was right. Malik Saunders came back to Caldwell Enterprises on a morning in some month. He walked through the lobby with his head up and his shoulders straight. First thing he did was stop at the front desk and ask the security guard where Darius Brooks's office was. He found Darius in a small room on one floor. No window, no walnut desk. Just a table, a laptop, and a stack of files. Malik stood in the doorway, could not speak for a moment. You did not know me, Malik finally said. We never met. Why did you fight for me? Darius looked at him, took a long breath. Because I know what it feels like to lose everything and have nobody believe you. Malik nodded, wiped his eyes, went to work. He was now director of financial compliance. His first project, building a whistleblower protection program so that no one at Caldwell Enterprises would ever have to choose between speaking up and keeping their job. He named it the Brooks Protocol. Darius told him to change the name. Malik refused. Harrison Caldwell rebuilt his company. Slowly, honestly, he replaced half the board. Hired a new CFO, a woman named Sandra Ellis who had spent years at the Department of Justice. He implemented blind hiring practices, created an independent oversight committee, opened the books to quarterly external audits. He and Darius became friends, real friends, the kind that does not make sense on paper but makes perfect sense in person. A billionaire and a former janitor. They had lunch every Thursday, opened the books to quarterly external audits. He and Darius became friends, real friends. The kind that does not make sense on paper, but makes perfect sense in person. A billionaire and a former janitor. They had lunch every Thursday at a diner some blocks from the tower. Darius always ordered the same thing. Black coffee and a turkey club. Harrison always tried to pay. Darius never let him. Preston Whitaker sat in a federal detention facility in northern Pennsylvania. His assets? The Zurich condo, the offshore accounts, luxury cars, a yacht he had never told anyone about, all seized. His name had become shorthand for corporate fraud. Business schools were already writing case studies. The title of one, published by Columbia, was the signatures nobody checked. He had years to think about what he had lost and why. And that is where this story ends. But before you go, let me ask you something. Have you ever been underestimated? Looked through like you were not even there? Known something in your gut, but nobody would listen because of who you were? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. If this hit you, smash that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe, because next week's story is going to make this one look like a warm-up. Remember, you never know who is watching, and you never know who is going to save everything with just 3 words.